Welcome back to our channel. Today we dive into the fascinating world of the ancient Egyptians, one of the most mysterious civilizations to have ever graced our planet. Alongside them, we find the ancient Semitic peoples and various other ancient populations. Many of you have expressed curiosity about the genetics of both ancient and modern Egyptians. So in this video, I will delve into this intriguing subject. Join me as we explore the origins of the genetic makeup of ancient and modern Egyptians. If you find this topic captivating, stay tuned for more videos on the genetics of ancient civilizations in the future. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another enlightening installment from our channel, the origins of the genetics of ancient and modern Egyptians. It is commonly believed that ancient Egyptians constituted a homogeneous ethnic group that remained unaffected by intermingling throughout the centuries. However, the reality is quite different. Ancient Egyptians actually experienced significant intermixing with diverse populations, including those from the Middle East and even Europe. Although numerous intermixings took place, the native Egyptian ethnicity retained distinct characteristics compared to the foreign ethnicities that merged with it. Ancient Egypt has always been a land of remarkable diversity, a trait that persists to this day. For instance, in northern Egypt, we find a substantial presence of Levantine, Semitic, and Mediterranean DNA, while the southern regions showcase DNA more closely linked to the neighboring Sudan, indicating a greater sub-Saharan African influence. Present-day Egyptians exhibit a closer genetic affinity with Middle Eastern populations, particularly those from the Levant region. This is largely due to Egypt being an Arab nation today, as it has been part of the Arab world since ancient times. Over hundreds and thousands of years, Egypt has experienced significant genetic influences through various migrations from the Middle East. However, the native DNA of ancient Egyptians remains a subject of vigorous academic and amateur debates and discussions. Some argue that ancient Egyptians were people of Caucasian descent who inhabited North Africa in antiquity. Indeed, approximately 3,000 to 3,500 years ago, white populations existed in the Maghreb region, ancestors of the Berbers who formed multiple tribes in North Africa. Nevertheless, in Egypt, the question of whether ancient Egyptians were white or black is a highly contested topic, considering Egypt's location within Africa. Many contend that ancient Egyptians were black Africans. Can this notion be genetically substantiated? Did ancient Egyptians possess genetic characteristics similar to sub-Saharan Africans, or were they genetically akin to Caucasians? Let's now explore the genetic origins of ancient and modern Egyptians. Drawing insights from the ancestral Brute Channel and genetic studies conducted on the genomes of over 90 mummies from ancient Egypt. A team of scientists from the Max Planck Institute in Germany conducted a study that shed light on the controversial topic of ancient Egyptian DNA. Their research focused on mitochondrial DNA, which is found in mitochondria and is passed exclusively through the maternal lineage, from mother to daughter. The study involved the analysis of more than 90 mummies dating from 1380 BC to 425 AD. The findings of this study, published in 2017, revealed a strong genetic connection between Egyptian mummies and peoples from the Middle East, including present-day populations from Palestine, Mesopotamia, and Saudi Arabia. The mummies analyzed were sourced from Abu Sir el-Melek, a site considered a sanctuary of Osiris, the king of the underworld in Egyptian mythology. These mummies specifically belong to the New Kingdom period, spanning from 1400s BC to 400 AD, which marked the end of Roman Empire rule in the region. In our exploration of the ancient Egyptians' origins, we turn our attention to the use of mitochondrial DNA, which has the advantage of better preservation compared to other types of genetic tests. This DNA allowed researchers to uncover specific characteristics of one mummy, such as skin color, eye color, and even potential lactose intolerance. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the ancient Egyptians' ancestry, it's essential to examine the genetic groups that inhabited the region during ancient times. Before the advent of genetic studies, scholars identified a group known as the Ibero-Maurusians, who were native to North Africa. The name Ibero-Maurusian combines Iberian referring to the Iberian Peninsula and Mauritian pertaining to the Maghreb region. Interestingly, the Ibero-Maurusians shared similarities with a population group in the Levant region called the Natufians. Facial reconstructions and studies on Natufians and Ibero-Mauritians reveal a brownish skin tone that closely resembles the depiction of ancient Egyptians in murals and artworks. It's worth noting that, as mentioned earlier, ancient Egyptians experienced significant intermingling with people from the Middle East. Consequently, various genetic studies have demonstrated a significant resemblance between ancient Egyptians and Arab populations from the Middle East, including countries like Palestine and Saudi Arabia. This context of migration and intermixing between native Egyptians and Middle Eastern populations is corroborated by Egyptology. In ancient Egypt, the people known as the Hyksos, or Hekakeswet in the ancient Egyptian language, had a significant impact. The Hyksos were a Semitic group that invaded and took control of Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period, which occurred between approximately 1650 and 1550 BC. This invasion represented one of the rare instances in ancient Egyptian history when foreign forces conquered the country. The term Hyksos originates from Greek and translates to rulers of the foreigners, or foreign rulers. The Hyksos were of Semitic origin, likely originating from the Western Asian region, and their rule in Egypt was characterized by a fusion of cultural and administrative influences. The Hyksos possessed formidable military strength, and their success in conquering Egypt was aided by technological advancements such as the introduction of horses and animal-drawn war chariots, as well as the use of bronze weapons. They established their capital in Avaris, situated in the Nile Delta, and ruled over Egypt for approximately a century. During the Hyksos' reign, there was a blending of Egyptian and Semitic cultural elements in various aspects of life, including religion, art, and language. The Hyksos migrated to Egypt, where they resided for many centuries, intermarried with local women, and integrated with other groups from the Middle East, particularly the Semitic peoples. In terms of genetic composition, studies on ancient Egyptian DNA from the Hellenistic period indicate that approximately 50% of their genetic makeup can be traced back to the Natufians, while around 30% can be attributed to Neolithic Anatolian farmers. In addition to the genetic contribution from Neolithic Anatolian farmers, there was another significant source of DNA that originated from Mesopotamia, specifically from Neolithic Iranians. This Mesopotamian genetic heritage accounted for approximately 11% of the ancestry of ancient Egyptians from that time period. During the Hellenistic period, ancient Egyptians had about 66% of their DNA derived from Neolithic Anatolian farmers, indicating a strong genetic influence from the Middle East. This highlights the impact of migrations by the Hyksos population, who entered ancient Egypt, settled there, and intermingled with the local Egyptians, who themselves had genetic roots in Natufians and Ibero-Maurusians. Considering that the initial population groups and genetic lineages to settle in ancient Egypt were the Iberians and the Aeans, who were depicted with a brownish skin tone in ancient Egyptian artworks, it can be understood that ancient Egyptians indeed had darker skin. However, it's important to note that their skin tone was not as deeply dark as populations from regions like southern Ethiopia or Sudan. Instead, ancient Egyptians had a more brownish skin pigmentation, which set them apart from ancient Sudanese or Nubian populations. In the Hellenistic period, approximately 50% of the genetic heritage of ancient Egyptians can be traced back to the Natufians, which aligns with the description of a brownish skin tone. However, the intermixing with populations from the Middle East led to ethnic diversification, with the Hyksos playing a significant role in shaping the genetic composition of Egypt. Over time, this gradual process of intermingling merged the Hyksos with the Egyptian population, resulting in a unified genetic identity. Evidence suggests that the migration of the Hyksos to Egypt began around 1900s BC. Over time, they interacted and intermixed with various peoples from the Middle East, including the Israelites. It's worth noting that Joseph, who was an Israelite, married an Egyptian woman, and their descendants included the tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim. During the period of the Ptolemaic Empire in ancient Egypt, there was a notable genetic contribution from Greece and Macedonia, which became part of the DNA of ancient Egyptians. Present-day Egyptians display more Semitic characteristics and are generally considered more Arab, despite the genetic diversity present in their DNA. The predominant portion of their genetic makeup can be traced back to Semitic origins, largely influenced by the Arab populations that settled in Egypt with the expansion of Islam. An interesting observation is found in biblical texts, which state that Mizraim, the son of Ham, was the ancestor of the ancient Egyptians according to Jewish Semitic traditions. It is intriguing to note that the presence of Natufian DNA, representing the original lineage of ancient Egypt, aligns with these biblical accounts, suggesting that ancient Egyptians descended from the lineage of Ham, although they underwent significant mixing with populations from the Middle East over time. This topic is far from being fully explored, and in a future video, I will delve deeper into the origin of the DNA of ancient Egyptians. I appreciate everyone's interest. May God bless you, and see you soon.